This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, here we are. It is literally February. And as we are, firstly on my home base, which is Colorado, it can get really dicey this month. Lots of snow. We can have some ice all over the place. And sometimes we can have glorious, glorious, sunshiny, warm days. So we never know. It's kind of like, you open up a box of something and you just never know what's going to happen with us each day. And on today's show, I have actually a new guest that we haven't had the pleasure of working with, but I know of their work. Lisa Trank is joining us, and she brings wonderful pedigree. I guess I love to use that word. A pedigree. She's an author herself. She writes fiction, which I'm always in awe of authors who can just make up some of these wild ideas they can do and take them to publication. She also is a marketing pro and has worked for many years with one of the best in the body, mind, spirit publishing, Sounds True, which is based in Colorado. And I know when I took over my own publishing operations back in 2000, and I was on the hunt for a cover designer, I actually found someone who was doing work at Sounds True, who created just the best of the best. So I had my 25 years ago when I moved to Colorado, I found out about Sounds True. And now Lisa Trank is going to bring her expertise of really moving forward in being a smart marketer, and literally where she works with a publishing company, that how we're going to look at, how can you become their best author, their one that they shine and star with. And it may be your own publishing company, and, you don't want to hate yourself either. So how can you put it together? And then how can we integrate all this stuff with all the social media, the Facebook, the Amazon, your website, and then that I know a few weeks ago we were talking about the author platform. So we're going to come back and revisit that and literally how to make a Kickass author platform so it will have long legs and can really grow and develop you as an author. So with that, Lisa, welcome to AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's great to be here, and I'm happy to be joining all of you. So where do you want to begin?
I think that
in the smorgasbord, right?
Yeah.
What needs to be, yeah.
Well, let's, and I know you also really are a big believer in mentoring authors.
Absolutely, and I think where I like to start, I really like to start with where an author is and honor that when I work with an author, and I think that that's probably the best place to ask an author, where are you in the world of marketing? I mean, part of the issue these days is that you have to be so much more than a writer or an author if you want to be a published author, and especially if you're looking for book publishing. You need to really, in many cases, be a generalist. So you have to know not only, what you're writing about and being able to put together a compelling book, but then you also have to understand, and this is where I try to coach authors, is a very realistic, what does it mean to work with a publisher, or if you decide to self-publish, what does that mean in terms of your output beyond the page? Because I think that so many authors, they have a compelling book and they think, I've written the book. It's like, great, you've done like a third of the work.
I think you're generous. I call it 10% of the work. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of a shell shock. for a lot of authors, because they absolutely do not realize the magnitude of what happens out after. It's one of my authors who is almost there. Her husband's an ER doc, and he called me the other night and he said, everything you described is right on. And as I worked with them, consulting them through the project, and he says, basically, I think we're at about 8.5 centimeters. We're just about there. The final push.
And some of us get stuck at about 4, and we need a little help, right? So it's understanding it is a labor of love. I mean, that's such an appropriate, metaphor, is that bringing a book into the world is truly a labor of love. And so, there's so many people who have so much expertise, and they're renowned in their field, and they've put in all of this time, and they decide to write a book. And, if they're fortunate enough to get a publishing contract, it's also understanding, the authors that are the most successful with their publishers are the authors who dedicate every day to making that book successful, of not having the expectation, I have a publisher, I can just sit back and collect my royalties or live on my advance. No, you got to get busier than you were before you were writing the book. And it's educating authors as to what it means to be in a relationship with a publisher. And this as well as I do.
Oh yeah. I 18 of my books was New York, but I think though, what you've already opened up the window, and I have said many, many, many times, Lisa, is that if your success is going to be, it's going to be up to me, which is you, the author. And that too many authors, even if they do sign a deal with a publisher, don't get that, especially in today's market, they are going to be doing the hefty side of the work. Oh, the publisher will get it out, and they'll do the production. But the marketing, you need to do a firm reality check at the opening door. It's going to be up to you. The great bulk of any of this is up to you.
Exactly. Even as you're driving up to the publishing house, right? Even before you open that door, it's asking yourself hard and important questions. Do you have the time in your life to dedicate to what you need to dedicate in order for your book to be successful? I think that is such an important question that many people don't ask themselves. Coming from the publishing side of things, being in a marketing department, one of the biggest questions in determining whether or not a book was going to be taken on was, what is the author willing to do to promote their own book? And it's not just a matter of plunking down money to hire out. That may be part of it, but it's also, what are you prepared to do, whether it's in social media, whether it's in building your email list, whether it's letting your friends, neighbors, enemies, everybody that you know aware of your book and ready to act on when that book is ready to come out. Are you continuing to write even after your book is in production and in the editorial process? Are you continuing to put yourself out there so that there is an audience waiting for your book? And that's the expectation that most publishers, and quite frankly, most publishing houses don't have the resources to be able to do a full-blown marketing blitz on anything but really the top less than 1% of the books that they're publishing. They don't have the staff, they don't have the budget.
Well, it's a rude awakening. Yeah, that's a real rude awakening. And I think that when I was with Simon & Schuster and some of the other houses that I've worked with, is that we used to actually call the publicity the department, who was the Jennifer of the month. Jennifer was the hot name. And that would be the intern. And what you need to understand, interns are short term. They're kind of working on almost like a quota. Well, if I can get this person in this show or that, they really don't care about your book. They're just kind of, plugging in here, getting their continuing education. So you really have to take control. So, and I actually think that's a good thing in a lot of ways, because literally, who knows your work? Who knows you? Who knows your book better than you, the author?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. And also, if you're dedicated to yourself as a writer, as your career, chances are you've got more than one book in you. And so, you have to think beyond this book to a career. And so that is essential, is that you absolutely, you can't be passive about it. And unfortunately, there are too many authors who are passive, or they're afraid and they don't know where to begin. And so hopefully you have a competent, you have somebody who can at least talk you through the process, who can talk you through the process. Or you have to get educated on your own. There are millions of books out there. There are shows like yourself. There are so many people out there who can actually help you be successful, but you've got to take that responsibility into your own hands and not give it away. And I had such a special experience working at Sounds True, because unlike a lot of small publishers or mid-sized publishers, we actually there's a very robust marketing department and dedicated publicists who are not interns, who have been in the field. That's a unique experience. And so I learned how unique that experience was. And so I think that it's eyes wide open. It's being open to learning new things. It's understanding that a publishing relationship is a relationship, and it should be a creative partnership. And that you have to be willing to show up for yourself. But that's part of it, is that am I willing to show up for myself? I have shown up on the page for a year, 2 years, however long it's taken me to write this book. Mm-hmm. Am I willing to show up to get the book out into the world? Mm-hmm. And that's a very, very important aspect of it.
Yeah, the last part of showing up, though, I think that's really important to get into play here, Lisa, is, and then we're going to go to our first break, but is that It's just not showing up. It's just not showing up. It's committing to putting in the work in to support it. You can show up, but you got to become a player. And with that, we're going to take our first break. Our guest is Lisa Trank, and we are talking about success, author success, marketing, how to get your book out there. This is Judith Briles, and it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Give your book the best shot at getting buzz before it's even released. JKS Communications has been leading the book publicity industry for more than a decade. From producing some of the earliest book trailers to recently creating what Shelf Awareness calls the world's longest book tour, our team of publicists work tirelessly, smart, and with the goal of getting you the best attention possible. Our family of publicists come from journalism and publishing backgrounds with great experience and a passion for books. And our family of authors all across the globe are supportive of one another. We read your book and talk to you to understand your goals and lifestyle before sending you a proposal. We only represent books and authors that we believe in. Let's get going. Go online at jkscommunications.com.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache. AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
For all of you who are just tuning in, we are really talking about how to be successful. Really, this is going to be our success. And you know, one of my personal themes is I want authors to, number one, be willing to dare greatly this year and transition from being this dreamer into the doer. But you got to define what the doer is going to do to get there.
Absolutely.
All right. So with me is Lisa Trank. Lisa's got a great pedigree backyard here because she has worked with a traditional publisher, where I have had experience being published by Traditioner out, and that I think it's important to recognize that there's also and doing it yourself. There's also good and bad on both sides. I don't know if we want to say bad, but there's challenges. Maybe challenges is the right word. Mm-hmm. On whichever direction that you go. So, but there is a lot of commonality, and that's what's really important to understand. So I think it would be really good where we were talking about, you know, some of these variables of being success in here. I think it would be good. Lisa's got some really strong, her experiences with marketing and what she did with some of these authors is to really, some of their just critical steps, some of these habits that if you develop them from the get-go, it'll give you a leapfrog, not a leapfrog, it's going to be a catapulting ability to get ahead of the crowd. Would you say that that's correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first thing is that you have to put as much energy into marketing and being a presence as you've put into your book. And that is really important that you understand that. And creating the author platform is one of the best investments that you can make for yourself and for your career as a writer. And by that I mean, you know, do you have a website? Is that website look like it's something, you know, from something out of 1985, or is it really current? Is it attractive? Is it easy to navigate? Is it searchable? You know, there are just, I'm a big believer in taking many steps towards the path to success. And, you know, whether it's you break it down to 5 things that you do every day for the success of your book, then you know you have that discipline. And chances are, even if you achieve 75% of what you set out to do, you'll be successful. And so some of the things that I tell the authors that I work with is, number one, you got to make sure that your professional profile is up to date. So whether you're on LinkedIn or whatever your website, that it's up to date, it's well written, You know, you want to make sure that's the first place that people go to validate you as an author is your website. And if it's not well written, you know, chances are the customer or the agent or the publisher is going to make that assumption about your book as well. So you want to make sure that that's really impeccable. You know, I think that you reach out on a daily basis. You know, we're so social, and we want to make sure that we're purposeful with our social media. Make sure that people, it's not a matter of sale. It's getting people excited about your book, people who care about you, people who are invested in your success. That's really important that you activate those people. And so I would say your website, getting your email list built, those are two things that you can do on a daily basis. You can write short pieces that you can begin to contribute. I mean, you know this, Judith. You know, no book gets published without a lot of cutting. So you have material that's going unused that's related to your book that you can use. Create a small ebook. Create 5 articles that you can give away, or that you can get published on some online publications. I think that the practice of writing is so creative and generative, and the world wants that information. And so that's number 3, is to continue creating material that can be used toward the success of your book. I would say if you need to get some schooling on social media, then invest the time to learn how to use these tools to your advantage. And whether you say, I'm going to do LinkedIn and Facebook, those are going to be my 2 outlets, then go for it. Really learn as much as you can. Chances are if you've written a book and it's a nonfiction book, you know, you're an expert in your field, you've dedicated years. Apply that same discipline to the marketing of your book.
That's really essential. And I think that when you're talking about the social media, I think it's critical for authors to understand. I mean, one of the things I always ask them from the get-go is, who are your people? Who are your buyers? Mm-hmm. Who are you writing for? What's their hopes, fears? You know, and for God's sakes, what is their pain? That you're going to come in and you're going to solve. And that way you can find fairly quickly the kind of social media that they're going to be hanging out on. And I think I think the other thing is really important to don't kiss them all. You can't. You're not going to have time for it. But you can nail down 1 or 2 and learn them well and become really proficient in them.
Absolutely. And I always advise, because it becomes very, especially, you know, there are certain authors who they're not well versed in social media, and so but it's understanding, can you do one of them? Can you just choose Facebook? If you've got, you know, 500 people that you're connected to from the various walks of your life on Facebook, every single, you know, chances are all of those people are interested in your success. They're interested in what you're doing, and chances are they'll buy your book. You know, Tim Ferriss wrote The Army of 1,000. How can you engage and activate and excite? You know, it's funny, I was at the Book Expo of America last spring, and I happened to run into somebody who I went to high school with. I heard his name over the intercom as an author, and he has a book being published. It's a sci-fi book, and I ran over there. I haven't seen this man in decades, and
what fun is that?
I was so happy for him to see this guy who had kept this interest in this particular area of sci-fi that he dedicated his life to see him up on the stage as an emerging author. It just tickled me. And, you know, we posted it on Facebook to all of our high school friends. And, you know, there's just, you know, I think we sometimes think that we have to create in a vacuum. And while we do as writers, you know, create on the page, it doesn't have to stay a secret, right? You got to get it out there. People want to know. People want to be excited about good things coming into the world.
All the time. All the time.
And so I guess, the fifth would be to invest in yourself every day. How are you investing in yourself? And also, if you're working with a publisher, understand that publisher is investing in you. Are you matching that investment rather than expecting that the publisher is going to do everything for you? Are you matching or meeting or surpassing that investment? Because, I know that if you invest more, you're going to get more on your return. If you hold back and you don't invest as much, then that's what you're going to get as your return.
And part of that investing is learning new things, attending classes, participating in a variety of events. And I think it's also very important as an author. Here's what happens. I typically see they put all this energy in finally getting the book out. That's finally out. And then they think the phone's going to ring or people will come to them. And that's why I said in the very beginning, 10% was the book. 90% is now you're going to go out and you're going to do the hustle, the author hustle.
Yeah.
And you're getting out. And one of the parts of that hustle is I think it's critically important to stay connected and merge in with other authors who are along the journey because you're going to learn from them. You will get unbelievable ideas and connections from them, but you can't do it if you're staying at home.
Yeah, well, and I think that I really loved how you're challenging the authors to dare bravely. Reach out to somebody, the biggest person that you admire in your field. Reach out to them, on Twitter or on Facebook. I can tell you that I worked with an author who established an incredible relationship with Elizabeth Gilbert on Facebook. Someone told her about the book. She posted something about it. They began a conversation, and now they're connected and working together. But that would not have happened if he had not dared in a brave way. It's like, what's the worst thing that somebody's going to say to you? Oh, I can't do it. No, you can't be afraid of that no. If you're afraid of that no, you shouldn't be an author.
Well,
because
I think so.
You're
because
told
no is going to come into
paper
it.
your walls.
Yeah,
right?
And
you
actually,
paper your walls with the rejection,
Well, no's a good thing because if it's a no, then you don't have to waste any more time. It's the maybes that can make you cuckoo.
It's done.
So there's a lot you can do.
So,
all right. We're going to take another quick break. Yeah, we're going to take another quick break. Okay. And Lisa Trank is our guest today, and we're talking about really the whole thing of marketability and being successful. This is Judith Briles, and it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing questions. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so we're deep into really a lot of the secret sauce. And it's really not so secret. This stuff is, look, it's been out here for a long time. I say it all the time. My guests reinforce it. And I think it's just an issue. You have to keep hearing it again and again and again and again. Mm-hmm. But you've got to move beyond the deal of 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready. Just get off your tush and go. And you're going to have to realize that you're going to make some mistakes. We all do. We all would like to roll back the clock. But if that, when you make a mistake, when you screw up, when you fail, let me tell you, giant leaps can happen. So with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, one of the things is, again, not being afraid and managing expectations as an author. Mm-hmm. I think that you have to also understand that, you may have been deep in your subject matter for decades, right? Whatever it might be. But and especially when you enter the process of writing a book, it's a very intimate relationship with your own knowledge base. But when that process ends, the world has to discover you. You have to help the world along. And this idea that you can passively sit back and be discovered when you're not participating, when you're not an active participant, is one of the biggest things that I continually work with authors. Like, you have to manage your expectations. We're in this for the long haul. Of course, everybody wants to be an overnight sensation. But the reality is, if you're dedicated to your career, then you've got to do the work and you've got to put in the time. I mean, I think about it, I think part of it is that we have this idea of creativity. We get struck by the muse and we write. And then, it's like a Hollywood story. It's a job like anything else. Just like, are you going to show up prepared for a job interview for a job that you really, really want? Or are you going to show up and wing it? Too many authors show up and they wing it. They don't have the knowledge base of what is involved with being an active member in this industry. They don't know the publishing world. They don't know the scope of what's involved with it. And from a marketing standpoint, I just have had a number of experiences where an author has really point blank said, no, I don't believe in this. I don't participate in social media. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, how do you expect anybody to know who you are and sell books? I don't know how you expect that to happen. And sometimes I really have to be that sort of tough love reality check. Because I don't want to disappoint people, and I want to help set people up to be successful. But I can't do that if there's that unrealistic expectation.
Well, that is, and I was sharing with you earlier that I'm always just blown away when people gloat, and it's a gloat almost, when they say, "Well, I don't watch TV," and my response always is, I'm really sorry. You've just chosen to blow off the majority of your buyers because they are watching TV. And one of the hottest ways to connect, especially I can tell you in the speaking field, when the 30 years I spent on the platform, I did so much work in the healthcare field. I watched every frickin' medical related show I could possibly find. And that because I would pull segments out of them and actually use them to support key points within whether it's a workshop or a keynote, because I knew that my audience, because of what they did, was deep in the heart of those shows too, whether it was Nurse Jackie or ER or, Grey's, fill in the blank, that they were watching that. And that, number one, when I did that,
smart.
I connected with
them.
So smart. And it's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Yeah, to me.
And what you're doing as well in that is you're beginning a relationship with your audience before they have their book in your hands, so that when they do have your book in their hands, it's an extension of an established relationship. They already know you.
They already know you.
They're invested in you. There's an emotional connection, and chances are they'll be a repeat customer. So if you have another book or a workshop or you're showing up and speaking somewhere, they're going to be there because you've taken the time to get to know them. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the most important things, that authors can be very self-absorbed and self-focused. But it's like you're writing this book for the world. If you're not, then it's a vanity project, and then I'm not really interested in working with you. But if you really feel that you have something to offer, offer it. And know that that's the beginning of a relationship.
Which could go on for a long, long time.
And, it may be, I come from a theater background, and so, being in theater and creating things collaboratively and being up on a live stage and feeling the impact of a live performance on an audience, hearing them breathe in or gasp or maybe some tears, it's such a, to be able to know that that's what somebody's doing when they're reading your book. You're touching something that they need, that they want. And there's a responsibility with that. That I also tell authors that if they have the opportunity to go and teach or speak about their book, that they've got to do it. Right? Some of the most successful authors that I've worked with have just cleared their schedule and reached out and gone and talked to churches and, wherever it might be, meeting places or town halls, or they've put themselves out there in a very intense way. And there's something that happens with that. They become better at delivering their message because they are doing it more often. It's not held in some ivory tower. It's out there for the world to participate with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so that makes all the difference. It
does make all the difference.
Huge, and it's where you can transition from a connector, from a presenter, from an author, from so-so, mediocre to way ahead of the pack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, what are you contributing to the conversation? Chances are you're entering into an existing conversation. We're part of a lot of interconnectedness, lineage, all of that. And you've been influenced by people. Hopefully you will have influence on other people. But what are you contributing to the conversation? And that is absolutely critical as an author. And, it's also you've got to practice. Stand in front of the mirror, have your partner videotape you, be able to talk about your book in ways for all sorts of different audiences. I mean, you have to do that work, because when you're up there, you don't want to be, kind of just figuring it out as you're going along. You want it to be practiced. You want it to be professional. You want it to have an impact, and you want it to be something that people are going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about becoming an automaton. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't be. Let me ask you this. When you had your hat on as the marketing and publicity manager for Sounds True, that what were the most common mistakes that you saw authors just bubble over?
I think one of the biggest ones was what I was just referring to, is not knowing how to translate their wisdom or their teaching to, like, I want you to be able to explain this to, like, my mom, or to, somebody who has no background in this, as well as to somebody, get out of the jargon, be able to communicate in an authentic way. And that takes practice. And so that may mean that people need to do some media training. And that doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars doing that. It really can be as simple as somebody videotaping you, and you look at it and go, oh, my goodness, like, oh, is that what I'm, you just learn. Because, if you're interviewed on television, you want to know what you look like. Or if you're being interviewed on radio, you want to know what you sound like. And so
there is absolutely no question on that one. And so that's part of learning how to pitch yourself. But, Lisa, what I loved, what you just said, is that getting out of the jargon and things. I was working on the back cover copy of a book that I'm quite fond of it. And she's smart. And I've always said, my husband, used to teach physics and engineering, and John is much more intelligent than I am, but I am smarter. I have got the street smarts. And that I was just recently reading that the average, and I think, oh my God, the average reading level is at 5th grade now. So we've taken another dip down, but what all of you listening need to understand, you have got to position and understand the marketing in that level. And if you can't communicate in that level, you hire someone who can help you with the copy and teach you how. Because you're going to miss the boat. You're going to miss the total boat on this. And
I think I've worked in a lot of different industries, and I remember one person that I was working with who was like, I said to them, well, I'm like a liberal arts person. I come from this background. Why are you interested in me writing for your high-tech organization? And she said, because you can write and you can communicate, right? Like, you have to know how to communicate in an authentic way. And, you have to be able to get it out of your own head to a wide variety, whether it's whether it's an editor or it's a radio host, or whether it's a book salesperson. You're walking in and you want them to carry your book, in their bookstore because you happen to live in their town. You have to be able to sell that book to that particular person, especially if you're self-publishing, or even if you're not self-publishing. I mean, just because you have a publisher, they may carry one copy, or they may not be carrying your book in their bookstore. You just have to be able to know how to talk to people about your work in a wide variety of ways, and that takes practice. That takes practice. It's like, we're going to come back and give them some of the practicing techniques, because I have a great line I use when the book is never in the bookstore. I have a great line. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we'll be right back. This is Judith Briles. My guest is Lisa Trank, and we are talking about author success in a variety of ways.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd. If you want to create a book with no regrets, give her a call today. 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207. Or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me today is Lisa Trank, and she's got over 20 years in marketing and PR in a variety of components, but somewhat most recently as a the marketing and publicity manager at Sounds True, which is a smaller, it's not, in the big five in publishers, but certainly it's not small potatoes. So she's seen authors in a variety of areas. And one of the things, and I told her I wanted her to kiss on, was the whole book signing area. And what most authors don't know is not a hell of a lot of books get signed typically in book signings because of this one simple screw up that is the author's responsibility. All right. And that is, Lisa, go ahead and jump in here.
Well, you again, how much are you going to invest in your book signing? I mean, if you're not getting out there to your email list, if you're not on Facebook inviting people and giving people incentives to get excited to show up, your book is just not going to go anywhere, and it will not get reshelved. Also, the reality is, in a bookstore like Barnes and Noble, it's a pay to play. Those books that you see on the end caps or on tables, publishing houses are paying tens of thousands of dollars for that. That is, and so, this idea of, again, your digital platform is so essential to the success of these live events. And I know, so many authors that I've spoken to who, okay, I'm going to go on tour. Well, okay, that's expensive and it's exhausting. And you can do that, or you can have a few really well thought out events planned, and then you do virtual book tours. And you get people online and you get them talking about your book and you create online book clubs. And I've seen that make all the difference to get that groundswell. I worked on the film, What the Bleep Do We Know? And this is like 20 years ago that film came out. And I was responsible for the publicity in the Colorado and New Mexico area. Well, I can tell you that by the time, and this is pre-Facebook, right? So this is like pre-social media. By the time that film arrived in Boulder, Colorado, we were sold out for 26 weeks at the Crossroads Theater because the word of mouth had been so successful across the country. People were there the fourth, fifth time, bringing 5, 6 of their friends. It was, and it happened in people's living rooms. It happened in churches. It was, people were emailing each other about this, but it was giving people the tools to be able to help you be successful. So if you don't have a good email list, by the time your book comes out, you've got to have 1,000 people who are on your email list that you're regularly communicating with. And it's absolutely essential as well that you create relationships with your local media. You go in and give a book to your public radio station. Go in and make sure that the appropriate reporter or editor has a copy of your book, and you keep them apprised as to what you're doing. You communicate with them and you develop a relationship with them. And then you're going to have more people who are going to show up, because I can tell you that I've shown up with books that we expected to do really well, and I show up to a book signing and there are 5 people in the audience. It's the mother, the father, and the husband, and maybe one teenage kid has been dragged along. And I ask the author, well, did you send out that email? No. Did you post on Facebook? No, I didn't do that. I don't really do social media. It's like, okay, well then this is what you can expect. This is what you can expect.
And there you go. Yeah. And so it's all about, what to expect when you're expecting. And,
exactly.
and brings it into play. Yeah. And, that whole thing. And I love this, the whole, people have resisted social media. And actually, I confess, if you talked to me about social media 3 years ago, I remember saying to one of my pals across from my conference table, there's no frickin' way I am going down this path. I am all over it. And if you're not a player on the field, you're invisible. And that really is the bottom line. And it's a choice you make. You need to understand this. This is a choice.
It's like we make investments. We make choices to make investments in ourselves, whether, we do it with our health and our well-being and in the people that we include. So why not extend that investment into something you put so much blood, sweat, and tears into? It's that sense of, believing in yourself and then doing the work. And I love the reference to what to expect when you're expecting, because it's what to expect when you're expecting, but then you got to deal with what happens, like, oh, I'm here and the book is here. So there's the reality of being a published author and the responsibility of being a published author, as well as what you imagined that it would be. And it's getting out of that imagination place to the reality and the work and the daily discipline that's required to make yourself successful.
Mm-hmm. And I'll share that when I first started on my authoring journey, which I thought was only going to be my one book, I didn't understand that books bred more books. But and I had signed with St. Martin's Press, and they really did take lovely care of me. I was really taken care of. But I think that's what most authors who do choose to go the traditional route think that's going to happen. And I just want to tell you, it ain't going to happen. It'll be a rare exception.
Yeah.
The only person who's going to take care of you is you, or the people you pay to support you in there. So,
or your network of people, right? Or your community. That's the other place where you're going to get taken care of, where people are going to celebrate and rally to your support. That's where people miss out on, and the reality is that most of us are very socially connected, right? I'm in contact with people that I went to camp with, for goodness sake, decades ago through Facebook. You better believe that when my book is ready to hit the shelves, they are going to be, notified and engaged, and they're going to be invested in it because that's, they're part of my tribe,
Well, and there's an obsession, and you can start that. You could really, you heighten it up 30 or 60 days out, and you just start sharing with you what's going on, your hopes, your fears, here's what you're doing, here's your planning, here's your hiccup. Share all that stuff, because that vulnerability is huge.
Exactly. Share the cover choices. Share a bit of the forward. If you get a fun endorsement, share that. Share your you're traveling. If you're going to be going and doing book signings or talks, give people the schedule. Tell them, please tell friends. I would love to connect with their friends. It's just, again, putting yourself out there in ways that are unknown and unusual, but that will and might really make you a bit uncomfortable. But that's good, because we do the same thing with our writing, right? takes us in unexpected directions, and we're challenged, and sometimes it's torturous, but it's what we signed up for.
Well, I can tell you last week I did a wonderful show with Ann Randolph on how to write raw and write hot. And that sometimes you never know where your pen's going to take you. You never know, but you have to be open to that, which is important. Yeah. So Lisa, I would love to. We've got you've got a few months, like 3 minutes here. So what I'd love to do is that let's pretend that we have we've got. I don't care if they're traditionally published or independent publishing; it's irrelevant to me. You're working with someone who is raw, and they're coming in and they're planning on doing some publicity. Or they're going to probably promote it mostly. They're probably going to create it most themselves. What would be the 3 most important things that they need to do?
Get a domain name that really rocks, and especially I like to tell authors, get a domain name that's your own name, because the other part of it, that's why my domain name is LisaTrank.com, because that's who I am. I'm more than one book. I've got articles. I've got essays. It's all there. So that's number 1. Know what you're good at, right? If you are not good at pitching, then work with someone, outsource it so that you've got that in your toolkit, so that you've got storylines that are ready to go to key reporters and publications. And then educate yourself on what you don't know. Learn about social media. I can't say it enough. If you're not willing to be involved in social media, then have a smaller expectation as to what your book will accomplish.
Or you hire a virtual assistant to take it over for you. And that's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And bring that on. And the other thing I want to add to this, where you said your second point, you got to know what you're good at. So you can, and that's part of that pitching. So you can get it out that. And it also helps because I'm sure you have seen enough of your authors over the years get waylaid by a host who all of a sudden takes them off on the track, and they don't have the skills on how to rehook it and bring it back into them.
Absolutely.
Critical to know. All right. So we are going to wrap up here, but how can people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me at lisa@lisatrank.com, and I'd love to speak with people. And I take on a few people that are a right fit. It's as important that I'm as good a fit as the other person, as you know.
Absolutely,
the relationships. So
good.
That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And I want to tell everyone on Lisa's website that it has her big name, and you'll see some boots and things, but on the left side you're going to see like 4 little lines. Just click on that and that'll open up the dashboard.
Click on that.
Took me a while to find it.
All will be revealed there.
Yeah, okay. All right. Everyone have a fabulous week.
Thank you so much.
You're
welcome. Have a great day.
All right. This is Judith Briles. All right. AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. Keep on writing. We'll be with you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week,